In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a couple of market-leading paints that will successfully and permanently cover the stains on your walls and ceilings. So, to be completely honest and transparent, I should point out today's video is loosely based on a video I recently did for Zinsser Paints for the how-to section of their website. Anyone who regularly follows my channel will know I'm a massive fan of this, Zinsser BIN, and on the back of that they wanted some real-life DIY examples to showcase a couple of their products. I had a friend up the road who had some water stains on his ceiling and walls, so I thought that would be a great opportunity to put two of Zinsser's stain-killing paints to the test. So I was paid for that video. I haven't been paid for today's video. They don't know I'm doing it, they haven't got any control over it. So I'm not going to hashtag add today's video. Let me know if you've got a problem with that. But bottom line, I've learned a lot from doing that video that I wanted to pass on to you. And there are some interesting points about the application of products like this on walls that I wasn't aware of, and maybe you aren't either. So that explains why you'll occasionally see me in the video wearing this t-shirt. Links to all the tools featured in today's video will be in the description below the video, which don't forget you can access on your smartphone by clicking on the arrow and on your PC by clicking on the Show More button. We've got a few stains to tackle in today's project. We've got this very obvious ceiling stain, which is also spread down onto the wall. And we've got a couple of other stains dotted around the walls and ceiling. And to eliminate these stains, I'm going to be using two products. For the walls, I'm going to be using BIN Primer Sealer Stain Killer, and for the ceiling, as the name suggests, I'm going to be using their Sealing Pro 5-in-1. Now, if you're anything like me, and particularly when I started out as a DIYer, I didn't really know a great deal about paint. And for quite a while now, I've had this pocket guide to surface priming and decoration. I don't know where I got it from. I think I must have gone on Zinsser's website and ordered a copy, or maybe got sent it, I don't know. But I suggest you go on their website and order your own free copy. A bit of a no-brainer, no reason not to. And whilst it does showcase, obviously, their own products, there is a useful section at the back on 5 reasons to prime, and also their top tips for painting and decorating generally. So overall, really good thing to have on your DIY bookshelf. Now, the other good thing about the pocket guide is it tells you which paints to use for which situation, which is just as well, because on a quick browse down the Zinsser website you would be forgiven for being quite confused about which paint you needed. I mean, for stain killing alone, there appear to be 4 different paints that might do the job. I'll explain why we use these two shortly, but if you've got any queries about what you need for your project, they've got a dedicated technical support line. Now, prep work is obviously key, if you'll pardon the pun, and it's obviously just as important with covering stains as it is with any other paintwork, and it's generally the bit that we all absolutely hate. But you've got to do your prep work, and in particular, you've got to make sure that the surfaces that you're painting are clean, dry, and free from anything that's going to interfere with the paint sticking. We're fortunate here in that the paintwork is in a pretty good condition, and the source of this stain has long since been resolved. But any loose or failing material should be removed by scraping or brushing with a stiff bristle brush. And then sound edges can be feathered with a fine grade abrasive sandpaper. I typically use 120 or 180 grit. Now, because generally us DIYers hate prep work, we're unlikely to go to the extra step of cleaning down our walls. And the two paints featured in today's video are such good stain blockers, it's not essential. But Zinsser do nevertheless recommend you use this degreaser and cleaner. And I suppose for stains, it's a stain remover as well, so it's good to get as much of the stain out before you paint over it. I would, however, particularly recommend using a degreaser cleaner in your kitchen, where the surfaces that you're going to be painting are more than likely to have a thin layer of grease on them. But don't forget, you've got to thoroughly rinse off the cleaner before you start painting. And clearly, if you've got mould, you've got to get rid of that before painting. You need to spray something like this on the surface and leave to dry before painting. Obviously, other mould killers are available. And a good way to check that your surfaces have been thoroughly degreased and cleaned is with a masking tape tack test. Because even if you think you've got a clean surface, it can still be hard to see contaminants such as oil and grease. So what you want to do is place masking tape on the surface and see if it sticks. If it doesn't, simply continue cleaning until a good tack is achieved with the masking tape. And obviously, if you're doing a larger area, just do spot checks with the masking tape to ensure that the area is consistently degreased and cleaned. Now, the other thing that's worth doing is filling any cracks and surface defects with a suitable filler. My favourite filler for this is Easy Fill from British Gypsum, and I'm going to be doing a video on this in a couple of weeks' time. I hand mix this filler into a malleable paste and then apply it to the area in question with my continental filler knife. This is a problem doing work for friends. I was there to block a couple of stains. I ended up doing a whole load of making good and repainting the entire hallway. And once dry, the filler is rubbed down with a fine abrasive sandpaper and all residual dust vacuumed away. So what is Sealing Pro 5-in-1? Well, unlike bin and cover stain, which are both primers, Sealing Pro 5-in-1, as the name suggests, not only seals and primes, but it also covers stains, bridges cracks and finishes ceilings. It contains a biocide to protect the dried paint against fungal degradation, and it has an incredibly quick 1 hour recoat time. So that's the ceiling done. The next step, we're moving on to the walls. The first thing we've got to do is patch prime these stained areas with our zinsser bin. So what can we say about zinsser bin? Well, being shellac based, it's fantastic for priming, sealing and stain killing. And in my experience on building sites, it's the primer of choice for professional decorators. Its attributes as a sealing agent are endless and it adheres to a huge number of surfaces. It's my primer of choice as it is for MDF, but I didn't know you can paint it onto walls. And finally, perhaps the most notable feature, it's got an insanely quick 15-minute drying time and it's recoatable in 45. This paint is so straightforward to use, it's often easy to forget that it does need a bit of a stir, particularly when you've got a new pot like this. And now we're going to let that dry for 45 minutes. So the patch priming is now dry and it's now time to prime the rest of the wall in the same paint. The reason we're not just leaving this spot primed and covering it with the final emulsion coat is spot priming is only recommended under high hiding top coats. Otherwise you run the risk of having the primer flashing through the top coat. And the Leyland trade contract mat that my friend had bought definitely wasn't opaque enough to cover spot primed areas and needed a few coats even after we primed the entire wall. And so what I'm doing now is I'm priming the entire surface to the natural break, which in this case is the wall meeting it at 90 degrees. It was only a small wall, so I used my mini roller and simulated mohair roller sleeve here. But my advice to you would be stick with a larger roller and don't hold back on the paint because you want to ensure that the primer is evenly and generously applied across the wall. What's great about this shellac primer is with a 45-minute drying time, I can actually get this patch primed and then the final emulsion coat applied all in the space of a few hours of the afternoon. And this you just wouldn't be able to do with a standard non-shellac based primer that typically has a 2 to 3 hour drying time. So the job's now complete. The decorative top coat is currently drying. Let's have a look at the stains. Well, I'm glad to say this ceiling stain has now completely disappeared. And the same can be said for this one too. And that unsightly stain at skirting board level has also completely disappeared. Finally, the large general stains we had at ceiling level and now happily a thing of the past. So I hope you found today's video useful. If you have, do please click on the like button below. And remember, details of all the tools I've used in today's video will be in the description below the video. Stay tuned over the next couple of weeks because I'm going to do some more work on this room, applying mist coat to the walls, using that filler I told you about earlier, and general decorating tasks that you might find useful for your own DIY projects. And remember, if you're new to my channel, I would absolutely love to have you subscribe. You can do that by clicking on the link here. See you soon.